Here's a question from practicing function inverses. So when we find the inverse of a function, we are interchanging variable x and variable y. So here for our first question on the left, we have f of x is equal to 4x minus 12. So you might think, Miss O, you said we're interchanging x and y, but I don't see variable y. Well, y and f of x is the same thing. F of x is a fancy way of saying y. So I can write y is equal to 4x minus 12. And right now, since we're interchanging x and y, where I have y, I'm going to write x. Where I have x, I'm going to write y. Boom. And we're going to solve for y. So this y here is basically the inverse of my original function f of x. So I am going to solve for y right now. I'm just going to change color so you can see that first I interchanged. So this was my first step. I interchanged x and y. And starting from the second step, I am going to start solving for y. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. I want to isolate the term for y. And to finish isolating y, I am going to divide by 4 both sides. Okay. And then you'll see that I have x plus 12 all over 4 is equal to y. And this y, so you'll see originally my function is called f of x, but I changed it to y. Now, instead of y, I'm going to erase y. I'm going to change to the inverse of the original function f of x. Now you might wonder, Miss O, I see that you got this as the answer, but you'll notice it doesn't fit in this template that Edgenuity requires. So they want you to put the slope here. So a value x plus another value. So they definitely don't want this fraction. So what I'm going to do is the division of 4, I am going to divide to the first term and divide to the second term. So I have x over 4 plus 12 over 4. So I am going to divide each term separately. So since I have x over 4, the leading coefficient, the coefficient in front of x here is 1. So what I have is 1/4 of x. And then I have 12 divided by 4, which is 3. And that's how you do the first one. So this idea of first step, you want to interchange x and y, is the critical step to find the inverse of the function. So when you look at the right side for h of x, same steps. I am going to go a little bit faster here, but you can always reference to the first example if you want to see why I do certain steps. So first, for this one, h of x, instead of h of x, I'm replacing with a y, same thing, 2x minus 4 all over 3. First step, I am going to swap, interchange x and y, boom, and then I am going to, for step 2, I am going to solve for y. So I am going to multiply both sides by 3, 4 to both sides, and we're going to divide by 2. So I have 3x plus 4 all over 2 is equal to y. And this y here can be represented as the inverse of the original. And let's see if they have anything in this format. Oh, whoops. So just want to point out a mistake I made. So just out of habit, I used the inverse of f of x. But if we actually go back to our original, it was h of x. So that was my bad. So let me just kind of go back and erase that. And I was able to notice it because when I saw my multiple choice answers, I didn't see the letter F. I'm like, where did that go? So that's my bad. So let me make that adjustment. There you go. Now I'm going to see if they have any of my answers in this format. And the last one. There you go. Maybe they could have, if they really wanted to, represented the answer in a different way. Just like our previous example, they could have split this up, right? So instead of 4/2, I could have just written 2. And they could have totally asked you to take that additional step. Before, by looking at this multiple choice, they just wanted you to stop here. Okay. And that's how you find the inverse of a function. There is another example from the same topic here, but you'll realize this time there's no equation. Like, Miss So, how can I swap x and y if there are no equations? So let's take a look at this word problem. Waterloo Park posted the following schedule listing the numbers of hours an employee works on a given day. Let B of x, T of x, R of x, and S of x represent the number of hours worked by Bill, Ted, Rufus, and Socrates, respectively, on a given day x. What is the value of the inverse shown below? Okay, so they want us to find an inverse, but we don't have an equation. So if I were to scroll up here, whenever I want an inverse, I'm switching x and y. So let's look here. I see that for my question is the inverse of s of 0. So I'm looking at s of x. So this is for Socrates. So I don't need to look at Bill, Ted, or Rufus. I only want to look at Socrates. And I'm noticing that we want to find the inverse of 0. So I see that right here. So if I see 0, but now instead of this value, I want to find the inverse. So what day does Socrates have to work to get 0 number of hours? And now we're looking that it falls under this vertical column, and it's for Friday. So if I did Socrates Friday, Socrates worked 0 hours. But since they're asking for the inverse, our answer, so this drop down, I'm assuming there's going to be a Friday option. So I want you to notice that this topic of inverse, you could solve it algebraically, like what we did above here, or you could answer based off a table. They give you the y value and you're solving for that x value.